Hello and welcome all to the third day of Mega Epic Epic Higher EdTech Innovation Conclave. I, on behalf of Epic News Network, welcome all the eminent panelists here today. It is my pleasure to welcome and host you all for this session. This is a very important session which we are going to discuss disruptions in higher education, India's opportunities in 2021 and beyond. And for this, we have very eminent panelists here. To moderate this session, we have Dr. Sayali Gankar, Vice Chancellor, DY Patil University. Thank you so much, Dr. Sayali, for joining us today. We have Dr. Shashi Anand Sridharan, Vice President, Kala Singhal University. Thank you so much, Shashi, for joining us, Dr. Shashi. We have Dr. Sibaram Kara, Vice Chancellor, Sharda University. Thank you so much, Dr. Sibaram Kara, for joining us today.
Namaskar, good afternoon.
We have Dr. T. Shashi Prabha, Vice Chancellor, Satyabhama Institute of Science and Technology. Thank you so much, Dr. T. Shashi Prabha, for joining us today. Now, I would request Dr. Sayali to please take over this session for the moderation. It's over to you, Dr. Shashi.
Thank you so
much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Gopi Aruraji, for having a wonderful introduction for the session. I welcome all my panelist members. Very eminent panelists are available here for the discussion. And the topic is very interesting, that the disruptive technologies, the disruptive education, especially the disruptions which is happening in higher education. What are the India's opportunities in 2021 and beyond? A very warm welcome to all of you, all my participants and co-panelists. I would like to start with the note that, of course, we are talking about new normal. 1 year has been completed. We started going through this pandemic era, and that created a major impact on our education, especially the delivery part of it, what we were talking about. Right from admissions to the placement, all the processes are being hampered very heavily. So let us understand that how everyone is dealing with that. Wonderful organizations are here on this platform. We have Satyabhama University from this country. Also, we have Sharda University, a very large campus which is set up and they have their own model of education. I think a wonderful case studies we are going to have it with the same Dr. Shashi Sridharan, who is Vice President with Kala Singhal University. And of course, from Maharashtra, we are DY Patil University, having more than 4 campuses across the Maharashtra. In Pune, we have 4 campuses. We have Kolhapur campus, and even we have Mumbai campus. So I think wonderful cases, we are going to have it, and let us understand how this disruption, we are taking it up in a positive way. India is known for its resilience, at the same time, flexibility and adaptability. The reason is that this country has always supported the country. I'm talking about the people, those who live in this country. They always took the responsibility of the nation and always dealt with the challenges which are coming on their way. So let me start with this, and let me have little, the first, we can say that the point can be shared by all of you on this particular topic to start with. And then I think we will start having more of conversation and deliberation on this topic which has been given. We know it very well that India always has a legacy, and we always dealt with the challenges, and especially adopting to the new technology. But there are certain challenges, there are certain opportunities, and how do you dealt with that as a university leader, as an educationist, and a thorough academician? So I would like to start with Dr. T. Shashi Prabha, she's a Vice Chancellor with Satyabhama University. So ma'am, I would like to request you if you can throw some light, your experiences to start this deliberation. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So thank you, ELTS, for giving this opportunity. thanking all my co-panelists also and the participants. So the topic here is the disruption in higher education. It's very, very interesting. At the same time, we are ready to adapt, as you told, without compromising our value of education, Indian value of education. We have started inculcating the new disruption, new normal. I would say it is new normal. Now, the thing is that as a leaders higher education institutions, so how we are going to amicably manage this disruption, and this disruption has given lot of opportunities also. So we are not saying it's a disruption, it is giving other avenues for us to grow internationally. So globally competitive universities are going to come out of India only through this disruption, I would say, because corona has made us to think of online educations. We all know though that in our curriculum itself there are certain subjects that can be taught in online, but previously, since we are not used to with online, we conduct every programs irrespective of subject we used to conduct in offline, but unnecessarily we might have wasted our time, I would say. But still now it has opened the eyes of everybody, so we are able to design our curriculum in such a way that there are certain subjects that need say physical intervention. So in front of the laboratory, in front of the faculty members, there are certain subjects that needs to be taught. Those subjects we can make it in online, and there are certain subjects that can be offered in online, as well as there are certain subjects that can be taken by the student through other available medias. So not only the host institution has to teach, they can earn from other available platforms like Swayam or Coursera, other platforms. They can very well go and take those subjects, and that can be added, transferred to our university, and the credit can be converted, and we can add very well. We can add. So this practice we have not made earlier, before Corona, and now this Corona has opened the eyes of us, and we are able to contribute our actual time, our university time, significantly towards practical knowledge. So the practical knowledge we can able to impart through practical as well as the interactions with the faculty members. There are certain subjects that needs collaborative learning, classroom sessions are required, and peer learning is also required. So that's why we thought of, I mean, Satyabama, we thought of redesigning our India curriculum so that certain subjects can be offered either in online or that can be taken through other platforms also. That will be considered and that will be added in our credit. So this is one way we thought of managing this disruption. And this disruption has made us to start a lot of new courses also. The new courses and new programs in emerging areas. Now UGC and AICT has given us clear-cut guidelines and clear-cut path how to proceed towards launching new programs, towards launching diploma programs, certificate programs, even UGC NSQF, a National Skill Quality Framework, has given avenues for us to start the vocational programs, diploma program, postgraduate diploma programs through online as well as through offline. So this era, this post-COVID era, has made us to start a lot of new programs, and it has given the clear-cut guidelines to redesign our curriculum both for engineering and other disciplines. In Satyabama, we plan to introduce design thinking, critical thinking, lateral thinking, and we plan to introduce a one course in the first year, engineering exploration. Previously, we were more oriented towards our formal way of education, mostly theoretical. People will not be understanding what they are going to study at the end of 4 year. They do not know where they are going to work and what they studied earlier. So this engineering exploration and the design thinking classroom sessions we thought of introduce so that we can able to produce real engineers for the society. This is not only for engineering, even for other departments also, other programs also, and other schools, let's say law or nursing, whatever the schools of pharmacy and dental and other bio arts and science courses. Also, we plan to introduce classes where we are going to discuss with the case studies, and we are going to discuss the experiential learning, and through that we are going to produce the real engineers or real graduates who will serve the nation at large. So this is our first objective regarding the curriculum is concerned. And since the disruption has enabled us to invest more on digital infrastructure. So now institutions, earlier infrastructure means we are concentrating only on physical infrastructure. Now the finance part of it, we have to significantly allot certain amount of budget towards establishing towards strengthening our digital infrastructure. So not only in library, in the learning platforms, other storage and the cloud infrastructure. So everything we thought of introducing, and entire system, the e-governance. We are going to build up a robust ERP so that entire system will be automated, and we plan to have a complete e-governance and leadership into the system. So this will attract the students throughout the globe. So I would say this disruption of HEI will enable us to move towards globalization. So through this approach, we can able to attract students from other countries also. And these online programs surely will attract other students of other countries to India. So I hope this post-COVID, and along with our new NEP 2020 has also given the avenues for us to explore a lot of new avenues. So along with this disruption, NEP will also add more value in our education system. And I hope after few years, India will be the best education system in the world. And thank you for the opportunity. I hope the similar way the other institutions are also thinking of. And I won't say it's a disruption, it's really a opportunity for the growth of all the institutions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi Prabha, for such a wonderful interaction. Every university focuses on curriculum, designing part of it, and at the same time, the regulatory bodies, what they are designing or what policies are being made are to be implemented very, we can say that stringently in our campuses to achieve those objectives. I would like to now come to Dr. Sibaram Shashikara sir, Vice Chancellor of Sharada University. Would like to understand how Sharada is dealing with these the challenges and opportunities. What is your thought over it? What kind of innovation you have done it in your campus so that we can understand. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Good morning to all the audience and participants. It's almost 1 year over. No, we started our lockdown and shut down the university. I think on this day, 18th of March, exactly 1 year completed. Yes, madam, Shashi Prabha ji, she has correctly said, no, whenever natural calamities are there or we are pushed to certain awkward situations, actually it increases our strength to fight, and we learn the new things and we renovate the things and then come out with a better solution. And probably that time we understand better that way we should be prepared, and that teaches us lesson that no, some of the things missing, so I should be prepared like that. I think this is the opportunity aspects of the COVID-19, and it has spread out all across all spectrum of life and societies and other sectors as well. Because due to the COVID-19, the life first phase was totally disturbed. The life cycle, life process, society, and thinking process, and all those things. And therefore, what we have achieved by this is that the healthcare system before COVID, and then healthcare system and its robustness after COVID today, enormous change to withstand, and we have developed, and our things and process and research going on. I think that is the achievement, that our challenges, then it has converted to some opportunity, not only opportunity, towards the achievement as well. Similarly, the manufacture sides also it suffered, and we are coming up and trying to recover. And educations, this is the sector where we are working, and suddenly from physical to online we moved, and then we learned a lot. And now we understand better that way the software should be available in the institutes, and then bandwidth and devices. And it not only the institute level, now governments also needs reforms the bandwidth availability, and came out with ODL and online curriculum at par with the physical educations. That is a good sign. But in the university, what lessons we have got, that that labs, as madam has told, the laboratories to be more experiential learning, and students innovations to be inculcated, and then curriculum to be developed. Of course, the national education policy is there, and we have come out in the Sardar University the new curriculum. Almost it is in final stage. Also, some framework of the curriculum has been given by the UP State Higher Education Council, and of course for non-engineering. But engineering, already we have come out with the framework. As per the framework, we have come out with the first version of the curriculum, where we are thinking the multidisciplinary, since Sardar University is the multidisciplinary university, and then your multidisciplinary open electives, and two more things, two components of the curriculum which you have included, and that is community engagement, which have been emphasized by the NEP as well. And in Sardar we are practicing it from 2017, and it's one of the best practice. But we are strengthening that. Every semester 6,000 students will visit, because the students, alongside their discipline specific knowledge, should be familiar well with the society, all sections of peoples, their microeconomics, life cycles, issues, problems, and other things, to make them locally and globally relevant citizens. And if they come out for product designer or service provider or government policy makers, at least they know the society better, and they can think that what impact will be there, what kind of solutions they are going to give, and for which sections. I think it is quite successful, but we have to strengthen this. And then one more new components, we have now made it mandatory in the curriculum as per the National Education Policy, and new curriculum, that Industry Connect. So we are going for also the internship based UG curriculum, and our Industry 4.0 cell, the Industry Academia Integration Cell, connected with more than 200 industry, and it is as very, very well connected. We have already established the ecosystem, and students are visiting, and they are having some exposure and understanding and studying, but that level of things are not. We are going in depth that how do we engage the students to earn the credits. So these two components will be there, and we are implementing and totally ready with this huge Industry Connect. And besides the entire process, the ERP automations we have done, right from the curriculum and teaching learning process to the evaluations, and including outcome based educations, and then a lot of supports to the students. And we have made a lot of those materials and digitizations, whatever you're talking about, that lecture materials through the library portal, digitizations, all these projects, dissertations, theses, and even course material, lecture materials, and we'll properly indexed and searchable contents through the students login. And because what is happening now, we are university, we have called all the students physically. Now no blended mode teaching learning, because even university is open, from 10th onwards we have mandated that you come to the class. So more than 75% attendance is there. But before 10th, we were doing this, students were not coming to the class, although they were in the campus, because it was in blended mode. The moment we have started blended mode, and that lectures will be available on the portal as a lecture material, you access that, and then students coming, and then 75% attendance is there, because we thought that physically we have to conduct the classes for the development of other skills as well. And then projects, and this time the interim examinations will be totally physically. That already calendar has been published, So these are all developments we have done from the education side. But one thing I want to highlight that in broader spectrum, that in India, uh, as NEP, we are talking about holistic development and entrepreneurship skills as well as employability skills, and also gross enrollment ratio from 26.3% to the 50% in the 10-15 years, and where we can calculate from 37 million to may 71 million the target in the higher education. So if we increase the employability skills as well, where is the job opportunity? So we are working on this. We are main emphasis on that self-employment by the students. So how do we prepare the students to be self-engaged? And then, of course, government side, I think they are also need to think about to promote the MSME instead of too much promoting the very large scale companies, because these MSME will have widespread approach, and people can be self-engaged from rural to suburban, urban, everywhere. And then each such MSME can absorb a kind of size of people. Then people will be employable as well as self-engaged. I think this is the way out to bring about the transformations in Indian self-reliant India. And for that, the skills and then experts and innovations we are talking about. So skill-based educations, where very quickly students will adopt some guidelines and can implement and work on the system and making this so is employable. And experts. So by Industry Connect, during the tour of his 3 years or 4 years time, students can work on certain tools of his or her interest. We have established one product gallery. The Indian Industry Association has given certain equipments and live equipments where we have kept here to draw the attention of the students that they can little bit work and do functions, and then if you are interested, we connect them to go to the industry. So this is our project, that experts can sometimes become innovator also over the large experience. And of course we should have innovators to solve those complex engineering problems. So keeping in view of that, we are aligning our curriculum and system and processes and community and industry connect to give them this type of experiential learning and more towards the self-employment and entrepreneurship and startup, all those things we are promoting. So we have established 10,000 square feet with the Institute Innovation Council for the students as per government policy, and we are trying to expand it also 11,000 square feet. And let us hope now we all have to make the more experiential learning, skill-based learning than only information throwing. So that is the motto we are also doing. And thank you very much. These are the few points I wanted to put up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think very nicely been covered by you, the new areas, which was been already talked by Dr. Shashi Prabha, but then you have added a lot of value to it by sharing your own experiences again, that what Sharda University is doing. You focused on entrepreneurship, you focused on Industry Connect, you also focused on the product gallery and innovation, what is happening in Sharda University. Great that, of course, the campus is started, and I think you said that 75% attendance is mandatory, so blended classrooms and the digitalization of the university is making your life more easy of faculty members and students. So now coming to the next speaker, Honorable Dr. Shashi Sridharan, who is Vice President of Kalasangam University. So may I request you, sir, to share your views on this, the whole year, and your approaches to overcome these challenges and deal with these, or explore the opportunities which are on the way. Over to you.
Good morning to all. It's indeed a pleasure to be here among esteemed panelists and the audience as well. And this has always been a very passionate topic, I would say. For the last 1 year, every one of us have been innovating. As Madam Sashi Prabha rightly pointed out, this is not a challenge, but rather an opportunity for institutions to innovate and prove to their students that, they can continue with education uninterrupted. And I'm sure all the institutions, including us at Kalasalingam, have been doing the same to deliver the same for the benefit of all our students and ensure that their education is uninterrupted and going as if normal campus was functioning in on offline or a physical mode. Similar, my previous speakers have covered a lot about curriculum innovation. I'd like to handle maybe 2 or 3 other points which we have done at Kalasalingam University for and share the same for the benefit of all. First and foremost, what we have utilized this as an opportunity is the development of virtual labs. Being a predominantly in an engineering institution, so laboratory experience is something which students miss out being, in the online mode of teaching. Yes, right now the things have come offline, or rather I would say a blended mode, wherein 50% of our students are on campus and the remaining 50% are doing online mode of teaching, or rather a blended mode wherein they spend a couple of days on campus and the rest of the days the teaching learning is going online mode for them as well. So in this scenario, especially for engineering institutions, how do we achieve the hands-on experience? How do we give students a platform for them to be able to apply what they have learned theoretically? For which, normally, yes, inside the campus, lots of innovation labs, physical labs are available. But online virtual labs are still lacking. Yes, Government of India has developed a suite of virtual labs, and other institutions are contributing as well. But this pandemic, or I would say this period, has provided an opportunity, and we at Kalasalingam University, our faculty members are working together to develop our own suite of virtual labs, right from computer science all the way to mechanical engineering, automobile engineering, name it. In every discipline, we are working amongst ourselves and developing our own suite of virtual labs for students to be able to practice what they have learned in the theoretical concepts, and giving them a platform for applying their things. So this is one thing which I would say, in terms of applying the engineering knowledge, virtual labs is one thing which we are looking at. Secondly, you utilize this as an opportunity to enhance the industry connect, as said by Dr. Shivaram Khara of Sharda University. The pandemic has actually been a boon, because before the lockdown, before the COVID, industry was very reluctant to conduct sessions online. They would want to come to campus, and we being located in a rural area of the country, it is very hard to get people from the north or even metro cities to come all the way to Madurai, and then to it's always a challenge over there. Now that gap or that barrier has completely been broken. Even even when we offer industry experts a chance to visit, they are like, no, we prefer to stay at home and talk to the students, interact with the students through a virtual mode. And I guess everyone, right from students all the way to every expert, is now comfortable in an online mode of interaction. So this has actually helped us enhance our industry connect, having more frequent interactions with the industry as well. And also as a result, we have launched collaborative programs. For example, our BTech Computer Science and Engineering program is offered in conjunction with IBM, wherein one expert from IBM handles a course every semester throughout the 4 years of their degree. Similarly, our mechanical engineering program is launched in collaboration with Siemens, wherein every semester an expert from Siemens is coming and handling courses for all our students. So this way, students get an insight as to how the industry is functioning, and most importantly, what they are learning, how is it being applied in industry, and also the projects which they are given during that course are mostly live projects or what their team is working on, so that they get an insight, or rather a good learning experience throughout the 4 years. Before, I would say, before this, this blended mode of learning, this might have been a bit difficult to implement. But now, given the technology all of us are used to, or I would say all of us were forced to use to get to adapt to, this is become a much more easy and much way of implementing that. The third and another important area where we have been able to innovate and do is in terms of assessment, evaluation. So gone are the days, I would say, wherein we do our normal pen and paper examination, especially in the peak of the lockdown, when it was the month of May 2020, when we had to conduct our final examinations online, this provided us an opportunity to kind of move towards an online mode of assessment. Initially, we were doing only an MCQ-based assessment, multiple choice question-based assessment, which gave us an opportunity to actually implement Bloom's taxonomy in true letter and spirit, wherein, like, test the level of understanding, test the level of creation. What is it in terms of Bloom's taxonomy? Implementing that in true letter and spirit, it gave an opportunity, and also for the students to see how things are being assessed, how assess the level of learning as well. Secondly, this also gave us an understanding that examinations are not almost always everything. So it does not have to, like, your grade and everything need not depend upon the final examination, but rather use the entire continuous assessment which was being done before. But rather, like, this gave us a time to implement continuous assessment in true letter and spirit, evaluate students periodically, give the feedback, and see how the improvement which which can be done through them. And most importantly, such, like, virtual labs, such, like, assessments which could be done online, offline. The evaluation was also very easy, especially when you have platforms and technologies which could do evaluation in a very easy and frequent manner. It was easy to get the assessment done as well. So 3 areas, as I said, like in terms of virtual labs, in terms of assessment, and also in terms of industry connect, are some of the areas which we focused at Kellerslingham University. So I thank you, and I look forward to a further discussion and, like, add more points there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really good that you have shared many things, especially engineering education or technology-based. The technological education is now moving towards using the various platforms. At DY Patil universities also, we have started with all these innovations, and especially making those platforms available to the students. Virtual labs, the app-based learning, ERP, right? At the same time, we have started with our the digital classroom sessions also. Of course, in Maharashtra, still the campuses are not open, so we are facing little difficulty to really engage student in terms of learning process. But then these platforms have definitely helped us to overcome these challenges. The innovations, what we have done is that we started with lots of certification programs, right, with the government organizations, and at the same time Coursera. So if you look at it, more than 4,000 students have got their certification through Coursera in the various topics. And what we did, we transferred those certification credits on their transcript, and that really helped them a lot. So students got an opportunity to pick up their own choices which are not covered in our syllabuses and would like to really go for. So what we are talking about in national education policy, that a student have an option to select his own basket, right? And this Coursera definitely help us. Not only that, TCS internship, they started with the internship, and almost more than a good number from engineering students, they have done their internship with the TCS. That also added a lot of value to these skills which we are aiming at. Of course, webinars became the part of the life of all the universities, and guest lectures, industry interactions, assessments, role plays. We started with the help of all these leading CEOs, CHROs, and managing directors of the organization. Actually, let me share you one of the important innovation what we did at campus is that we started getting connected with the international universities, right? And we said that we would like to host you on webinar. And that's how we started having the sessions from Japan, and the 2 to 3 universities, they came forward and they started interacting with our students. From UK also, Birmingham University, we got connected with them, and we asked them to conduct the sessions for our management student, right? And this kind of blend has started happening. So rather than having classroom and digital, a new unique blending of education has been started by all the university, and that we have done it very well. We have Dr. Ranjan as a vice chancellor with our international university, who himself is a nuclear scientist. And so what we have done is that we are now developing our own nuclear labs, and that is a little very, we can say that ambitious project which we are going to start soon in the campus. So Energy Idea Labs with the AICTE, Innovation Labs, and of course Atal Incubation Support Yojana, that has also helped us to really set up the entrepreneurship labs and activities in campuses. Great. So this was from my side, which I wanted to share it with all of you. Moving ahead, I think we need to now really understand that how are we preparing our own faculty members, right, in terms of, because initially it was a major challenge for faculty to come online and deliver the classes, right? But now national education policy, these new centers of excellence, what we are doing at our campuses, are posing a new challenge with the faculty members. So I would like to know about the from your side, that what efforts you have taken to develop your faculties to tune with these challenges and engage the students in a very what we can say outcome based education, what we talk about. So how are you ensuring that, so that those innovative practices, I request you to share it with all of us, please. Dr. Shashi Prabha ma'am,
Yes.
you can
Yes.
share on that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We are allowed to start emerging areas. We are allowed to start programs in emerging areas. So whether we are equipped on these emerging areas, that's a question mark. But still, this pandemic has opened a lot of avenues for our faculty members to train themselves right from the day of lockdown. You all know that AICT was continuously, since last March onwards, AICT Atal Academy have started giving lot of online programs to the faculty members. FDP programs, 1 week for FDP, continuously they were organizing, and we were given the instruction to the faculty members that they have to, at least 5 programs every faculty members have to undergo during this period. Okay, so we were actually started our faculty members functioning the institution from June, July onwards. Till then, faculty members have taken, if I say, every faculty member have undergone at least 5 online FDP programs. Not only through AICT Atal Academy, you all know that Coursera has also given free access to all their programs. So through that also faculty members are taken. And I would say there are some faculty members who have undertaken 43 FDPs during this lockdown. When we started collecting data from a faculty, one of our faculty is telling, I have undertaken 43 programs. So like that, the faculty members have also used those period in equipping themselves in these emerging areas. And with that hope, I think we are in a position to start new programs in the emerging areas. And we keep insisting our faculty members, and we also conducting a FTP, a 6-month certificate program on artificial intelligence along with our industry. So for our students as well as our faculty members. So that program is also on. We started the program in the month of August, and I think this next month it is getting over. And we are also, like a student, we are continuously having a watch on faculty members, how they are equipped, and we plan to conduct a test also to assess the faculty members also how far they are equipped on AI, because we all know every program AI is playing a role, and even in mechanical or electronics or computer science. So though we have started a program on computer science specialization, AI, IoT, and data science, other departments are also interested to show start programs in AI. So that's why right now we started taken this initiative of equipping our faculty members in AI and data science and AR, VR, and blockchain. So the laboratory relevant to this field have already been set up in 2019 itself in next generation laboratory. So we have the facilities now. This pandemic has made us to train our faculty in that angle also. So maybe next academic year starts, our 30% of our faculty members will be able to handle the classes in these emerging areas. So this is how we have planned to empower our faculty members. This is a very actually it's a challenging part, and they have undertaken these FDPs. They have the certificates of those attended FDPs, but now we need to assess the faculty members. That assessing part we are planning on exercise, huge exercise to assess the faculty members. Accordingly, some incentives or other things we are planning to give. This is it's a very, very challenging area.
Very nice that the faculty development programs, especially ICTE, is taking enormous the efforts to really support the faculty members, and those new areas have been also identified: AI, blockchain, virtual reality, then even your IoT, right? So all these new topics which we're talking about, data science, and the courses which are offered are now very, very powerful way of developing the developing faculty members for our universities. That's really good to know about it. I would like to know the question goes same to the Dr. Sibaram Khara sir also, that what efforts are we really taking for the removing or making a positive environment in campus from the faculty members, especially accepting the new technology.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Already I mentioned that in Sada University, we have a strong industry connect cell. So now it is mandatory. Even during the pandemic, almost 50% faculty visited the industry, because we are working in NCR in Greater Noida from June. But our university actually was closed for only 2.5 months. So from June, we are open. All faculty members were mandatory. And then now each and every faculty members, they have to visit the industry and along with the students, and they have to design some internships, some projects, and have to have study, and they have to deliver those contents to the students. So this is one part. The industry exposure for the faculty members mandatory, and now we are doing it very fast. In last 11 days, we have our faculty members have visited 11 industry, and 46 faculty members they have visited, and then almost 100 students they took. So this is part of the faculty appraisal systems, because we want our faculty members to have the exposure to the industry. This is one thing. And other thing is, it is mandatory for all faculty members to do the SWAYAM course to upgrade their skills in all those high-end courses, advanced courses. Of course, also for student it is there, but for faculty member we have proper incentive policies. That's why we'll see that large number of faculty members, almost all the faculty members, some kind of courses, whatever is available in the SWAYAM, they are doing. They're upgrading themselves, because for each course, besides the registrations, we are giving 10,000 to 15,000 rupees incentives to the faculty members to upgrade the faculty. And during this lockdown process, we wanted to know create the intellectual wealth as instructed by UGC. So video nahi aa raha hai. So then we have more than 100 patents actually we applied, and almost 76 published, and 4 are granted. It's a great achievement, and we have proper incentive policy. And faculty members has to guide the students project. At least 100 student project across the university every year. Now it is mandated. We have already shortlisted that those are to be patented. And then achievement sides of the students projects along with the faculty members, we have set up certain benchmark, so that we are moving towards the achievement based and involve the faculty members to guide and supervise the projects accordingly. Then we have trained our faculty members with universal human values and ethics. It is a very experiential course, and because it is a core subject across the university, So we develop, and besides, we have teaching learning cell in the university, and where they will ensure the faculty development and on the teaching learning process and outcome based education, and then monitoring the level of such practices, and specifically the LMS. Few things are there. We monitor the quality. So teaching learning process, what we are, our thought process, our theme is that whatever we are doing, the activities, what is the achievements we are expecting, or what will be the outcome, what new things students will be learning. So that's why we organize at least twice in a semester that learning outcome based system and processes. And besides, we also every semester do once, because new faculty members also join, that the understanding the outcome based educations. In Sarda University, we have implemented the outcome based educations to save some of the management times of the faculty members in the portal itself. Minimize kiya tha, chala gaya. So two-stage monitoring is there. First thing is that for each and every course, faculty program, the vision, missions, and program educational objectives, program outcomes, and program specific outcomes to be uploaded. And in the grid, we can generate the status report. And then subsequently, when its practice part will be there in every semester, the course outcome and number of tools defined to assess the course outcomes, and then their mapping with the course outcomes, and then how much it is practiced, and ultimately the attainment and its analysis report. All those things we have developed through the vendors, that some kind of monitoring can be done, and we analyze the status and then advise the faculty members that there are certain things are missing, and we are taking all proactive measures to ensure the 100% practice. And besides the departments, and already we know that during pandemic, large number of such training programs have been organized for the students as well as faculty members, because the experts need not come, and it is easily approachable that all experts almost ready to contribute. So we connect all the experts across the globe and to do these training programs. A lot of conferences and training programs and FDPs have been organized in discipline specific domain as well. So in Sarda University, we keep on developing the faculty members, because Sarda University has its own Sarda Tech, which actually provides the ERP based solutions of our own, and also we provide the solutions for others, some of the organizations. So it is well equipped, and we can train the faculty members all this ERP literacy. So for that also faculty members is given training, because everything is automated here. Everything is server based and ERP based and LMS. So that's why we keep updating the faculty members. And these are all the few points I wanted to say. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Wonderful efforts which have been taken by your university. Dr. Shashi Prabha has also shared, and you have also shared, you have touched upon a very important point, that industry interaction of the faculty member with the of the university is very important, because we always talk about that there is a huge gap between academia and industry, and this is required to be breached. This is required to be filled up by the faculties to approaching them. And it's really good that you made it a part of your appraisal system. Unfortunately, in India, everything is required to be connected either with the marks, credits, or maybe the appraisal system. But that really helps you a lot, especially to the individuals and the student at large, because this experience brings a value to the campus, where faculty comes back, shares their experiences to the students, and those become the popular stories of the classrooms. Wonderful, great efforts which have been done by Sharda University under your leadership. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Shashi Sridharan sir, that what efforts at your Kalasalingam University you are taking, especially to overcome this reluctance, to overcome this readiness or to become more ready towards the new normal, and especially with the technology. Thank you.
Madam.
Over to you.
Thank you, madam. So, as like this pandemic was, I always say this is a forced adoption of technology. So, had it
Yes.
not been for the pandemic, the adoption of technology, especially in universities or educational institutions, would have happened eventually, but at a much slower pace. But this, gave us the opportunity, or rather, forced us to take up the opportunity and move into the online mode of teaching last year, similar time last year. So first and foremost, where we felt there was a serious need to, I would say, sensitize faculty members is in the area of online teaching. So initially, that is where we spent a lot of our resources and time on, is basically because faculty members thought it was the similar way, wherein they would just turn on their camera and talk in a similar way as how they would do in a normal classroom scenario. But we as students, you have seen so many memes on how they would just post a picture, mute, and then just go off away. So even when we asked them to keep the camera on, so it was a different teaching pedagogy was needed in order to keep students engaged in throughout the 1 hour, or be it whatever time the class was needed. So for the first couple of months, I would say almost 1.5 months, a lot of training programs was needed, especially in programs which were not used to, I would say our engineering programs and management programs were at least used a bit towards online teaching or a blended mode of teaching initially. But whereas some other programs, it was a completely new experience for them. So a lot of time and resource was spent initially on I would say motivating our faculty members, and most importantly, getting them to understand how the online mode of teaching should be done and be made more interactive, so that students don't feel the disconnect between the faculty and the students. So that is where I would say first and foremost was what was done at Kallislegam University. After that, I spoke about previously in terms of the development of the virtual labs, as well as in terms of how we changed the way in which we were assessing the students. So a lot of training programs and a lot of opportunities were given to faculty members to be creative in terms of how they assess, and also in terms of what kind of labs or what kind of assignments or experiments they would like in order to give students the hands-on experience as well. So this was the second, in terms of how we implemented and motivated our faculty members to be as hands-on possible, and and I would say accept the use of technologies as well. So here, one interesting thing I would say happened is at Kallislegam University is when we started encouraging faculty members to use MOOCs, especially Swayam, Coursera, and everything. They had the apprehension that it was to replace them. So a lot of knowledge had to be given to faculty members, saying that MOOCs are here to, I would say, assist you rather than replace you. So how we went about implementing the adoption of MOOCs inside the university is, first and foremost, we started looking at areas where we do not have enough faculty expertise. So such new technologies, as Madam Sashi Prabha rightly pointed out, blockchain and everything, new technologies are coming up, and our faculty members are still late at catching up onto them. So for such new technologies, MOOCs were initially used. And once faculty members found the, I would say, ease of using this and the advantage of using this, gradually now I would say, in all our courses, right from arts, engineering, sciences, everything, we encourage the use of MOOCs as much as possible within a particular course itself. So this is something which was faculty members were very resistant initially, but now they have grown to adopt it. And most importantly, when they see the impact on the student, when they see the outcome on the student by using MOOCs as part of the pedagogy, as part of the teaching learning process, the effect is much more. So now the acceptance has been much more over there. So finally, and apart from all of this, definitely Industry Connect is also another area where our faculty members have utilized the opportunity. Lot of webinars, lot of development programs with industry has helped them enhance the knowledge as well. A last thing which we have also given our faculty members the time, or I would say the feedback which we got from our faculty members was, given that we were working in an environment where they were mostly working from home, and it was not a very fixed time slot, right? Not a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4 kind of a schedule. Many of them also utilized this as a time to enhance on their research, especially people who could get work done online and using simulations and other things, except laboratory based research. Many of them utilize this time to enhance this. And I'm proud to say, over this pandemic period, in a period of about 1 year from last March to this March, close to about 800 papers have been published by our faculty members and students. Normally, this would not have been possible, but whereas this has also encouraged them to work on their research and improve their research methodology and research acumen as well. So these are some of the areas in which we have been able to motivate our faculty and see a visible outcome from them as a result of this online disruption, I would say. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very nicely shared by all of us and what we have done. I would like to ask a very important question that every time we focus on our faculty and student. What about the administrative staff or the support staff, which is now required to be geared up with these new challenges, because they always had a pleasure of having work on table and playing with the papers. That is what they always did. So what are the efforts you have taken to improve their role to support this technology part in your university? So I would like to ask this question to all of you. So maybe Dr. Shashi Prabha ma'am can start with that. What efforts you have taken at your university?
Ma'am, if this administrative role is concerned, now since we are using ERP,
Yeah.
Automatically the things are going in a e-governance way. So right from the top management to the other administrators in various levels. So we have we are used to with the technologies. So through WhatsApp groups, through mails, through mail groups, then our ERP. So through that we could able to do the communications. We could able to get the data or get the things done from through this type of announcements. So since this is already in practice, and these top administrators and other administrators like deans, HODs level, we are not facing any problem, because as long as the
Problems.
continuity is there, we could able to easily connect to these people and get the things done. So that was already in practice for the past few years. So that is not a problem, and still we have given the training to our other stakeholders like our support staff, technical staff. So we have given the assignments to our technical staff to create their virtual labs. So in fact, electronics, digital electronics lab and other computer laboratories, virtual labs are being set up by our technical staff itself. With the support of the teaching staff members, technical staffs
Okay.
are,
Very
because
nice.
technically they are strong, they have supported the teaching staff members and they were really supporting the department in establishing the virtual labs. So they have now they are also having this type of technology awareness, and than the teaching staff, technology, our technical staffs are more aware about the technologies and being able to easily train them. So apart from this, we have other safety issues, safety and other data integrity and other academic integrity. We have given the training to our faculty members. So since we are doing digitally, so lot of issues, even technology itself can able to misuse our information. So this awareness we have given to the faculty members and our technical supporting staff or the administrators, how to maintain the academic integrity. So that is very, very important, and it is one of the value system we need to inculcate at campus. And our values, our Indian values needs to be rooted. Though we are going into the modern technology and digitalization and globalization we are talking about, we need to maintain and we need to educate our stakeholders, right from students and other faculties and in all levels and staff in all levels, our education system, our value system. So that we are imparting through various seminars, webinars, and other various workshops, how to be even for the students. We know examinations we are conducting in proctored mode, And in Satyabama, we have our system proctored as well as manual both proctoring we are doing. Still, there are some students, they are trying to do malpractice. And that suddenly we are not giving any excuses to the students who are doing the malpractices. So that system we are maintaining, that integrity we are maintaining, and we
Okay.
are inculcating this ecosystem with this integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Sivaram Kharaji, if you can throw some light on this part of it, the administrative staff and their preparation for this new case.
Yes. Thank you, madam. See, administrative, if you talk about the non-academics, we have here admission cell, okay, controller of examination, international office, account section, HR, inventory management, hostels. So many more such small offices are there. And see, Sarda Tech himself has designed the PeopleSoft-based this ERP system. So everything is aligned as per the needs of the Sarda University. And every time it continues. Every month you will see at least we are making the list of requirements or enhancement to be done. Every month we review that they need at least a couple of such enhancement to be done, and requirement is coming. So we have to give it to Sarda Tech. Then you develop and do. But training is required. Now, see, admission cell, a lot of things now we need to align as per the UP Higher Education Council and then NIRF and NAC, So few things are not there, so they themselves are dictating. So these people are automatically get trained and they know their own software. Similarly, the COE.
Absolutely.
Although our curriculum and then faculty and student mapping and then marks uploading and then result preparations, these in-house we have developed, that automatic grade will be generated and result will be published. And question bank, including the question bank, and now day and night, every day almost you will see that they are having meeting with the ERP team and they are automatically trained. And but thing is that when online exam we had this for COVID, during the COVID, for conduct online examination, so exam online we software we selected, that was reasonably 8 softwares we did the comparison, and all the metal of course was there. Then we have seen and
Metal was
tasted
there.
practically that the exam online was better with low cost and
Low cost.
giving all so for that the special training was there, and then similar training was there for the MS team. Now MS team for faculty as well as staff, because for staff we used to generate the report for every weekly report, of course, that and device report, how much duration, what device they have used, and who are taking what are the classes and all. Some of the monitoring was there. So for that also several times we have organized training for staff as well as faculty member. Those are technical things. And accounts, of course, that every day we need to realign. Now NIRF is coming meticulously. We have to keep the records of all the finance heads, because now we have seen that many heads we are not meticulously maintaining. So for that also training is there. So anytime software development continuous process and training is going on. Besides the general training, HR manual training for both the staff and the faculty members is very, very important, because staffs are changing and faculty members also changing, and over the time they forget also, they don't remember what are the actual leave rules and other facility rules. What are the facilities are there, regulations are there, way they have to avail all those things, apply the rules and responsibilities. And then the employee ethics also, some of the ethics documents are there. On that also we do the training for. Recently we did the IQAC, conducted the training for all the staff, I think last month. So likewise the hostels, and then inventory is the big also. The inventory management is done here online, and then the heads of expenditure and the inventory, that nowhere is reflected. Now recently again we are revising where this money is going. Now we have to show it for IIC or for NIRF. So it is a continuous process and training going on. Moment we develop something is coming, that office will be giving training on that particular new forms and then operation manual. So totally technically competent and continuous process we are doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May I would like to request Dr. Shashi Sridharan sir to share his experiences and preparation at university.
Definitely, madam. So, to be honest, like in the first 2 months of the lockdown, we did not plan anything for the technical staff. I would say the reason was because, like they did not have the support at home, technology support at home, in order to get the trainings done. And since online world was there, so in terms of having a necessary infrastructure for that was not possible initially in the first couple of months of first 1 or 2 months of the lockdown. But later after that, after when we were able to empower them with the necessary infrastructure for that, first and foremost, what we did was in terms of upskilling them, because going forward, as all the speakers have and all the panelists have pointed out, being moving to the e-governance model, moving to an online or blended mode of teaching, the role of the support staff becomes different. It is not normally the paper filing and everything which was there done before, but rather maintaining the same things in an online environment. So in terms of training them on how to use the softwares, in terms of training them on how to use the virtual labs and everything, so that was the a task which was done initially at the first period, maybe about for 1 or 2 months after the lockdown period. That was the main task in which we were focused on. Secondly, we also called our because most of our non-teaching members and our support technical and support staff live within a short radius of the university. Once the government gave permission, I guess it was in the month of August, so we started calling them on campus and conducting a wide variety of programs, for them in order to upskill themselves. Definitely, yes, technology enablement was one, but also other self-development programs in spoken English, usage of IT tools and everything. These were some of the other initiatives and activities conducted for them. And most importantly, in terms of safety, ensuring safety standards, because they are the ones who are currently enforcing safety standards across the campus. So in terms of sensitizing them on what is needed, how to behave, and how to proceed with all the new regulations and SOPs in place, all this sensitization was also done for the technical faculty members, I would say. So one good thing which I would think came as an outcome was they understood that just their roles are not going to be it's different, and a lot more upskilling is needed for them. So right from all the faculty, all levels of technical and support staff understood that and adapted to the upcoming the current changing scenarios as well.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful panel discussion where everyone has shared their own experiments, innovations, approaches to really transit and transform their universities. I congratulate all of you, because these efforts are not because maybe we are summing up those in 1 hour, but the kind of resistance, the kind of processes what we implement is not that easy, because human behavior is really tough to handle on ground. And I think that you have done it really very well. So kudos to you all and congratulations, because we are the self-motivated. It was a great learning experience to each of us. Every case study, it was a case study of these 4 universities. And then APAC has given, this network has given a wonderful platform to all of us to share this. Because whenever I attend any webinar or as a speaker, this was the first time where I moderated the session, but it's always a learning process.
Thank you, madam.
You have done your job very well, ma'am. I must say, foremost, you wanted to
really those that.
So I would like.
So it was. Thank you so much.
This is a very lovely experience. One of the best panelists I have attended. Very nice, madam.
You've done your job very well.
Thank you so much.
And Saili, madam, thank you very much. It is well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank
Thank you.
all of.
Thank you so much.
I would like to thank all of you. I think The crux of this entire discussion is whether we are adopting the new technology like blockchain or AI, industry connect, entrepreneurship, digitization of universities, ERPs. The crux of the entire discussion is that blended learning is going to stay for a long, long, long time. So I think it is now a foregone conclusion that blended learning is going to be staying here. So this is what we all understood.
Yes.
I would like to thank Dr. T. Shashi Prabha, Vice Chancellor, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, for joining us for this session. Dr. Sayali Gankar, Vice Chancellor, D.Y. Patil University, for moderating this session so well. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining this. Dr. Shashi Anand Sridharan, Vice President, Kalasalingam University, for joining us. Dr. Anand. Dr. Siba Ramkara, Vice Chancellor, Chada University, for joining us. We at EPIC will continue to create such platforms so that we collectively can deliberate on such topics and move in the right direction to make India a better and new India. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
today.
you, Gopiji. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.